Welcome to the Human CMO, a conversational interview style show that humanizes leadership at the highest level of modern marketing. I'm Natalia Arkuszewska, a marketing leader consultant and the host of the Human CMO. I've spent over a decade helping brands and CMOs navigate growth, pressure, and strategy. And now I'm focused on creating honest conversations about what leadership really looks like behind the title. Today, I'm joined by someone who believes marketing isn't about selling louder, it's about solving better. My guest, Laura, who has spent 20 years building a go-to-market strategies, driving revenue, and leading teams across cybersecurity, tech, and complex B2B. She's worked with names like AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google, CrowdStrike, and even collaborated with aerospace giants like Boeing and Airbus. But what makes her different is her philosophy. Marketing should build trust, create clarity, and actually align with business goals. Whether she's stepping in as a fractional CMO or teaching founders one short video at a time, she's focused on impact over noise. Laura, I'm so happy you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So my first question to you is, where are you dialing in from, and what are we toasting with today?
I am in upstate New York where we still have plenty of snow and it's below freezing temperatures, but I do hear spring is on the way. Can't wait. And so I am drinking tea this morning to stay warm.
Unfortunately, I forgot my drink, but if I had to, I would have some sparkling water right now.
Very nice.
What kind of week are you walking into in this conversation with?
I would call it controlled chaos. I was out sick last week. I still sound a little bit stuffy now, but I feel fine. So we're just trying to get caught up and I have a good plan. Just need to find a few more hours to make it happen.
Well, you look great though for being
It's
so
the natural light. I'm in front of windows and they cover a lot of issues.
see, we always do got the tricks. The tech really helps
Yeah.
it. So when someone says, "Oh wow, you're a CMO," what story are they making up in their heads that's completely wrong?
A lot of people think leaders, including CMOs, are just out of touch with what's going on in the company. They don't understand the struggles that their teams are facing and dealing with on the day to day. But they forget that those leaders were in those seats before and they did those things and they get it. So I would say if you feel that way, have an honest conversation and talk about what you're seeing. They may not know what's going on because you didn't tell them. They're not mind readers. They're, hopefully not looking over your shoulder every day. So have a conversation and come with a solution, but they may be able to help implement that.
And I guess what do you think are some sort of maybe suggestions? Like if you were thinking back that you were in that position that they're in, like how could they start um, sharing like what's on their mind and like you said to speak up. But what are maybe some little prompts that could help somebody feel more comfortable?
Yeah, I think one of the things is understanding how your work maps to the company strategy and what they're trying to accomplish. So if you can understand that more clearly, then you understand what you should be focusing on and what might be more of a side project that someone's asking for or might not otherwise align. So if you're not clear on why you're being asked to do something, respectfully ask for a little bit more information. Obviously, you can't do that every day and all the time, or you start to seem to be a little bit difficult to work with. But doing it strategically when you truly do have a question to help you reassure yourself is good. And if you are getting a lot of requests for urgent things from one particular team or person, just ask about it. Say, has something changed at the leadership level where this is now a priority and it's something that I should focus on? Or is it a project that's just a priority to this one person and we need to have a conversation about realistic expectations?
Yeah, I find it's always those things are such a there's so much psychology behind it, and it's those are the soft skills too that we're learning as we move on in our careers. Uh,
Yeah, it's funny. I was just posting on LinkedIn as a comment to someone else's post today is that a lot of leaders and managers today don't teach the soft skills, but people coming into the workforce and advancing don't have them either. So there's a gap. I was really lucky early on that I had someone who taught me, when to pick up the phone versus send an email, what information you should include versus what is extra and is going to take that person too long where they're going to ignore my email. What's a problem I should escalate versus trying to get help another way to solve myself. So if you're lucky enough to have a leader that can help you, that's an amazing leg up. Otherwise, I would say try to figure it out yourself and observe and start trying some new things versus just waiting for someone to tell you because that might not always show up.
yeah, I think that's the blessing and curse of technology. Me being a millennial, I guess social media came right when I was going into university. And so when I entered the workforce, I had a similar situation where the soft skills were taught by the managers and leaders around me. But, when I hear some of my colleagues who are younger than me, they definitely don't have maybe that same perspective or courage because technology has somehow taught them to approach things differently, or it's not allowed them to develop those skills. So it'll be interesting how the next 10 years, um, how things change in that dynamic. So I'd say, what is the least glamorous part of this job that nobody warns you about?
Yeah, I think that is doing things like PowerPoint decks for the C-suite late at night because when you're in marketing, a lot of times you know how to make a presentation and make it look nice, and so you get leaned on for that skill set. So there were many, many late nights working with C-suite leaders, pushing images around, trying to rewrite things so that a maybe not so coherent idea would resonate with the staff or wherever it was being presented. And that is, I would say, one of the least glamorous parts of the job.
Yeah, I find I don't think many people realize that that's, if you've never really worked in the marketing department, um, that, those kinds of things are going on behind the scenes to make everything look so flawless and perfect as presentations come about.
Exactly.
So what does being a CMO cost you personally that doesn't show up on LinkedIn?
One of the things, especially when I had a larger team, was just what I would absorb and deflect to help protect them so that they could do their jobs. So saying no to distractions and ideas that might be nice to try but weren't really aligned with the priorities we had right now that were taking up all of our bandwidth, and just making sure that they had what they needed to do their jobs well. That's probably true of any leadership position, but I think that, ideas flow faster into marketing and direction changes a lot faster in marketing depending on how things are going with the business. And so that can be a constant battle.
And when do you feel the pressure the most?
We talked about like, is it the boardroom? Is it the budget or the 2 a.m. spirals? And for me, it was definitely the 2 a.m. spirals. Did I remember to talk to this person? What if this doesn't work out? Even before I was in the CMO seat, I used to have recurring dreams about these webinars that I was running that were not real, but like, I never sent out the invite or we never figured out the slides and it's happening in an hour. And then I would get to work and have trouble sorting through what was real and what wasn't. We probably all go through that at one time or another, but it's definitely just signal. Yeah, definitely a signal that you need to slow down somewhere to be able to shut your mind off.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely, I think, just even any sort of regular, like working in that 9 to 5, North American corporate job, there's that's another soft skill I think of learning to just take that breather, whatever it is, meditating, going for a walk, but nobody will tell you to do that. That's something again you gotta um hopefully learn over time.
Yeah. One of the best pieces of advice I got from one of my first bosses, and I haven't always taken it, I'll be honest, but when I do, it works, is to truly take a break at lunchtime or, sometime in the middle of your day to separate the morning from the afternoon. And it does make a huge difference in your focus and your stress level.
Makes not being on your phone too, I find is such a big thing is when you're trying to just have that lunch,
Yes.
or whatever, coffee, whatever you're taking a moment for. But yeah, it's just so easy to just slip back into then, oh, maybe I'll just check my email very quickly while I'm scrolling Instagram.
And it's never quick, and you always wind up going and doing something. So I agree. Put the phone down.
Yeah, yeah. I actually, it's funny. The other day I was looking, maybe this is a signal for me, but I was on Amazon and I saw this ad on where you can put your phone into this box and it locks it for you. And you set a timer and you just cannot access it at all. Like once you press the button, like it's gone for how many minutes you've set it to. So I thought that was pretty neat. I was like, I think I need to get that for me and my husband.
That sounds like something worth trying. Sometimes I will leave mine in another room that's kind of far away and not convenient to go back to. And when I find myself wanting to reach for it, I try to do something else instead. But I think it's something that we all struggle with.
Yeah. That's good discipline on you, though. So before we keep pulling up threads, I want to flip it. Ask what's something you deeply care about right now that people aren't asking you about?
Especially in the realm of marketing, but I suppose it could apply to any discipline. It's really having an organizational strategy that everyone's working toward. And that is not just, what our sales goal is for today. It's what's this company going to be next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years, and mapping your marketing activity to that versus just sending out random posts and emails to try to get people to sign up for the webinar we're having next week or bring in enough leads to hit our quota or whatever the case may be. I think short sighted activity robs you of building an intentional plan and executing that over time to achieve bigger goals.
If you could clear one misconception about marketing leadership today, what would that be?
So I think we get looked at as the band aid to solve or cover up bigger problems within the organization. So many times I was told or asked, oh, let's just do a little bit of marketing for this. And, because sales haven't been picking up or there hasn't been as much interest, if we just do a little more marketing, it'll be fine. But oftentimes, that would be for a launch for a product that was never vetted to see if the market was interested in paying for that thing. Or there's a problem with the product and it's not stacking up to what the competitors offer. And sure, we can bring in leads and get them in the door, but we're going to lose them on the retention side when they don't renew. So marketing can help, but it cannot truly fix other systemic issues within the organization.
Mhm. I do see that a lot, and yeah, and sort of my experience too is especially working with a leader that believes that marketers is like have this like magic touch, and you just put up an idea together and let them run with it, and then miraculously like it will just drive all this revenue and all this profit for the company. And yet they sometimes don't wanna put the investment towards it too, and realizing that there's a lot behind the scenes.
You're right. It's
And
it's not magical fairy dust. It can't solve all our problems. It's not free. It takes time, money, or both. And I think people don't always recognize that sometimes because it is working. So it looks at It's looked at as a solution to solve bigger problems.
So what's a belief you had earlier in your career that you completely disagree with now?
I think it's that leadership always knows what they're doing. You look at them as a role model, as the person steering the ship, but oftentimes leadership doesn't have all the answers. They might have more data that is helping them make observations and make decisions, and they have to make decisions. So they're doing that. But that doesn't mean they're always perfect and they always know exactly what to do. But they're paid to be decisive and make things happen. So that's what they're doing. And mistakes are made. So I think a lot of us start out that way, just assuming there's a plan for a reason and it's really great and that's what we're doing. But things change and we learn new information and have to adapt.
And so what do you guard fiercely now that the younger you gave away too easily?
Two things, my time and my health. So it we're all inclined to spend more hours working because if we just get past this one project or launch this one product, it'll slow down. But there's always a next thing. There used to be, it seemed like a slow season throughout the year. That's gone away. It's always busy. There's always something new to do. So, really thinking about your priorities and just doing that and either leaving the other things behind, finding another way to do it, or giving it to someone else. And time and health are pretty closely related. If you're working a lot of hours, too many hours, you're not looking after yourself, and then if your health starts to fail, you can't do your best work. So those things are closely aligned and something that I am very protective of now.
I love that. Yeah, I think there's definitely a shift, probably a lot because there's people talk about this in the media and maybe amongst each other, but that's definitely something I struggled with when I first got into the workforce. Is the generation before me was about you stay into the office until midnight, multiple times, sometimes in the week if things need to be done, but I always question, like, in the end, if you're then getting sick very often, if that really gave you more time or if you lost time because you ended up getting sick and then you can't perform at all. And so balance, I think, is that word that we're, I think, focused on now versus just work, 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 and everything else comes secondary.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is look at where you spend your time and what adds a lot of value. It goes back to that 80-20 rule. If you spent 4 hours trying to perfect a graphic by, nudging boxes back and forth 2 pixels a piece and until it looked perfect in your eye, no one else is going to notice. Think about what is good enough and meets the standard and then stop. And that's hard for a lot of people.
I'm curious to see how it all will end up because we have AI now too helping us out, and I know there's the good and the maybe not so good coming with that, but
Yeah, it makes mistakes too. And so we have to try to catch those.
yeah, so somebody has to be putting in hours to monitor that.
Exactly.
So, what part of this role still makes you feel uncomfortable?
That you're it. The buck stops here. So it's sort of like for the first time, maybe you're in your late teens or 20s and a problem pops up and you look around for the adult in the room and you realize you're the adult in the room. The same thing happens when you're in the marketing leadership seat. You're the adult in the room. People are looking to you to make decisions, to give them guidance, to reassure them, and you're it. And when you get into this level, there's not a lot of support for you. There's less education available for you. There are certainly no peers within your organization that are going through the exact same thing. So you don't have the support there. So what I've, tried to do is find meaningful sources of education, find other CMOs that I can connect with, hear what their problems are, how are they solving them? Is there something I can apply? Is there something I can help them with? Because that support helps strengthen you as a leader versus just trying to do it by yourself.
Community is key, and that's why having these networking opportunities and certain groups and member-based organizations, I think, are so helpful. Um, but even then, I think there's such a difference with the industry the CMO works in too, because there's different problems in different industries and there's different structures that they're well, company structures, sorry, that they're working in have different challenges as well. So,
Yes, big time. Like I've worked for a startup that was bought by a huge publicly traded company, and I've worked for a nonprofit. They're all very different in terms of what you're trying to accomplish, how you get there, how you ask for budget, how that all happens. And then I had spent most of my career in B2B, business to business. I hear about B2C CMOs talking about things, and they're dealing with problems that
mhm.
I couldn't even imagine trying to address. So it is definitely a diverse set of problems depending on where you're working.
Yes, I think the big, I mean, at least in the corporate world, because nonprofit, that's a completely different game too. But the first thing I quickly realized, even amongst my mentors when I was first getting into marketing, was the B2B and the B2C, like you mentioned, and it's just even like deadlines and how they function was completely different. But you wouldn't know that until you're working and being involved in the day to day.
Exactly.
So, but that's what we're here for, to start talking about it and making people realize what's really going on behind the scenes. Um, so my next question is, what does this job quietly ask of you as a human that other people don't really see?
Marketing in general, marketers need a lot of different skills that are often at odds with each other. So you have to be creative, but you have to be analytical. You have to be able to design, and you also have to be able to write. You have to budget. You have to manage people. You need to see the big picture, and you need to see the details, like nudging things over 2 or 3 pixels at a time. You have to stay up on the trends, and you have to be able to use a pretty diverse set of technology and tools in order to do all of this. So marketing in general is requires a unicorn to be able to have that left brain and that right brain at the same time and make all of those things happen. And then when you get into the CMO suite, now you are dealing with company politics, bigger picture problems. How are we hitting revenue? What are all those numbers and how do they mean? And how do I translate this now for other C suite leaders to be able to see what's going on? And how do I understand, you know, the the complexity of what they're trying to do. So I spent 8 years in cybersecurity. I'm not an expert, but I speak the language. I know what a lot of the acronyms mean. I could have a conversation with them. But that was information that took me a long time to learn, and I really had to try. And by gaining that understanding, it enabled me to partner with them better because they hopefully had a little more respect for me, respecting their craft. And so there's a lot of more nuance to it than I think most people realize.
Yeah, when I think of um, some more specific uh roles that you'd think are more universal, software engineering or um I don't know, human resources. It's so different, and then the expectations are very different of us as well, even though some of these roles, like if you're a software engineer versus a marketer, you're valued more if you're a software engineer. But like, to what you're saying, is being a marketer, and even when you go higher up in the role, there's just a lot more that you need to know, like, skills wise, than just being able to do something faster than your colleague beside you.
Yeah, it's definitely the skills of the just diverse set of things you need to be able to know how to do and understand. I think the other thing that's unique about marketing, especially in a leadership position, is that a lot of times in the different functions, they're focusing on their silo and their one thing. In marketing, because you're talking about what the whole company is doing publicly, you generally have to be attuned to what everyone else is working on and constantly thinking about how that fits into your plans and what you're ultimately doing. So you have to see the bigger picture and be part of that conversation to be successful.
Hmm. One thing I totally appreciate now is when in university to study marketing, they had us take a few psychology courses, and at first we thought it was just to understand the customer, but then you start quickly learning it's also about learning how to work with everybody around you when you have to fulfill all these tasks and complete these projects and getting everybody on board.
Yeah, learning how to work well with other personality types and, the challenges that they're facing, right? Because they're dealing with issues at work too. Learning how to work well with people, understand how to best communicate them is a really important skill as a marketer. I think back to, someone just wants you to get it one extra email out. How big of a deal can that be? Well, anyone who knows in marketing knows that it can actually take, we're talking like not using AI tools, just doing it the old fashioned way, but it could take hours to send an email because you have to build the list and you have to build the content and you have to test the links and you have to test the email and like it's a whole thing. And there's many steps in there, but other people don't necessarily understand. So it's a balance of trying not to sound like you're making an excuse of why it takes so long and balancing with I want to support you in what you want to achieve, but maybe we have.
So that it comes out perfect versus, a lot of mistakes and then, creates embarrassment for the reputation of the company. What's something then you're still figuring out at this point?
Well, I just mentioned AI, and that's a big one. I think we're all still trying to figure out what AI is. When it first sort of entered mainstream business, a lot of use of it was just generative AI. Have it write our blog posts and our emails, and that seemed to be where people were sort of parking it. And I think it can help in that. It can't replace the human, which is what we're starting to see because it does all sound the same. Even if you prompt it, I think you can make some gains, but it's not a complete replacement. When we think about bigger marketing problems, like just the vast amount of data that we have, I worked at a company that had tens of thousands of downloads a month, and we were collecting a lot of demographic information about those people. And there was information within what they were downloading that aligned to the challenges that they faced. So, using AI to analyze that data and create better experiences for those people, that's one thing I would love to spend more time on and focus on. And just other applications along that vein that get at things we were never really able to do and make things better for the user and the customer. And if we can find ways to use it to speed up other parts of our process, like content creation, that's great too. But that certainly shouldn't be the only focus.
Mhm. Yes, because we're still, I mean, I still have to, I find myself educate people on the understanding of AI, and a lot of will think that it's already artificial intelligence, but yet, as we know, it's just machine learning, and so we're still in the teaching seat, and without us, it's just not gonna function. So, um, and hopefully we don't turn into the Matrix or the Terminator. It's completely take us over, but
Yeah. But I like what you said about us being in the teaching seat. And I think the problem that people are running into with AI is they're expecting it, like you said, to just autonomously, automatically know what to do. But in order for it to be successful, we have to feed it our messaging, our information, our process, our secret sauce. And if we're not clear on that internally, it's only going to be magnified in AI. So I think that it elevates some of the process gaps and issues that maybe we had been ignoring or just not had time to address. And that is what causes some of the friction.
yeah, and I heard if people see it as a tool for that as well is just even practicing your delegation skills, because it gives you the feedback right away, whereas with, a team member, it might take a while for you to see, "Oh, maybe I could say this better," or that, they learn differently, so I might have to adjust the way that I say things, but I think from that aspect, we should all, become experts in delegation because of it, if we're using it.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about delegation. A lot of times, especially in a leadership position, you think, I'll just do it myself. It'll take 5 minutes. It'll take me longer to explain to someone else what I want than it would be if I just did it myself. But if you give someone a learning opportunity and you take the 15 minutes to explain it, and then maybe another 15 minutes to give feedback on the first version, and then maybe 5 minutes for feedback on the last version, you're giving them a skill so that they can now go and do that and add that to their arsenal. And it's the same with AI. You're giving it that skill that can now pay you dividends into the future. So I love how you said that.
Mhm. Feel like we could keep going and going about this topic.
We
I find it
could.
so fascinating. Um, so, my last question to you, um, who do you get to be when you're not the CMO?
I just like to do things that are relaxing and fun. So I don't know if you can see them back there, but I have a lot of plants back here. I like taking care of the plants in my house. You do too. I know the greenery helps. Being able to see that and improve the air quality and all that. I recently started watercolor painting in those little workbooks that you can get on Amazon. So I'm not super artistic, but using that part of my brain helps me unwind. So I like to do that and read and I knit. I actually run an Etsy shop with my grandmother, which is pretty cute. And I do like to travel too.
Yeah. I find knitting is so good for just like if you can't meditate, it's a good prompt to get you to meditate by just, focusing on what you're doing. But
Yes. And it keeps you off your phone because your hands are busy and you can't do both at the same time.
exactly. I think we should get more people to start doing that. And then we can, like you have a skill, need more clothes or like again, if you're in a cold climate, you make yourself all the things you need to keep warm.
Exactly. Yeah. If AI takes all of our jobs, yeah, because I can crochet too. I hear crochet clothes because machines can knit, but I learned that they cannot crochet. So that's one thing that can't be replaced just yet.
That's true. Yes, because I've taken some classes before, but yeah, with the hook, I guess it would be hard for them and to figure that. Sure, they will eventually, but
Someday.
all right. Well, that's a wrap. And thank you so much, Laura, for getting real with me today.
Thanks, Natalia. I'm so glad that we were able to connect and make this happen.